Hi everyone, I'm Ana Maria Montero and you are watching CNN Money Switzerland. It is Wednesday, the 29th of April, and here are the headlines that we're looking at today. Starting with the Swiss federal government, who unveiled more details on how it will ease coronavirus restrictions and faster than originally planned. Shops, restaurants, markets, museums, and libraries will be allowed to reopen on the 11th of May, but with certain conditions. A maximum of 4 people per table will be allowed in restaurants with a distance of 2 meters between each table, and classes will be able to take place again at primary and secondary schools. And for mass and top class sports, trainings will be able to take place again in groups of up to 5 people. Large-scale events of more than 1,000 people remain banned until the end of August. The Federal Council also announced support for the aviation industry. Airlines Swiss and Edelweiss will be given guarantees of up to 1.27 billion Swiss francs. And here to talk to us more about that is Stefan Eiselin. He's editor-in-chief at Eiro Telegraph. All right, Stefan, so the Federal Council announced their conditional aid package for Swiss and Edelweiss Airlines today to the tune of about 1.275 billion Swiss francs. Tell me, what did you take away? What stood out to you today?
It's in fact quite a big sum, 1.275 billion Swiss francs. That goes to 2 companies, 2 airlines. Of course, they're the biggest airlines, but still the whole industry gets 1.875 billion. So the vast amount goes to 2 airlines.
And why does that feel uneven to you?
I think there's other companies that also would need money. The government acknowledged that. There's the catering companies, there's the MRO companies. They all need money as well because they have no business right now. But they can't bail them out right now because the law doesn't allow them, because they're Asian owned. And also the law doesn't say, only says they can help airports and airlines. So they will have to change the law first in order to be able to help them as well.
And were you surprised at the fact that EasyJet Switzerland was left off the list?
Yes, I am actually, because EasyJet Switzerland is the biggest operator in 2 national airports, in Basel and in Geneva. And the government said they don't need the money right now because their company, EasyJet UK, can help them right now with their cash needs. So we just have to believe that because we don't have the accounts right now.
And what does the future of Swiss Airlines and Edelweiss look like with this kind of aid?
Well, it helps to keep them afloat. As you know, it's a crisis like we have never seen after the Second World War. Planes are on the ground the world over. They only operate very few flights, so there is no income and there's still lots of costs that they have to pay. So they burn a lot of money. Like Finnair said today, they burn or they lose 2 million euros a day, which is a lot of money. Also, Lufthansa last week said they burn 1 million an hour. So you see how vast or how deep the crisis is right now.
The government also announced that as of May 11th, entry restrictions for EU, EFTA, and third country workers will also be relaxed, as will Swiss and EU citizens rejoining their families in Switzerland. Switzerland recorded 143 new coronavirus cases on Wednesday, taking the total to just over 29,400. 1,400 have died. Now, despite numbers stabilizing and all the talks of easing lockdowns, we're also still faced with the prospect of a potential second wave of infections. My colleague Hannah Wise caught up with Peter Grunenfelder. He's the director of the think tank Avenir Suisse, who says how government decides to manage data will be key.
Everybody hopes that there's not going to be a second wave, but for that reason, we have to get all the data, and for that reason, government has to do with private sector, with probably private partnerships, drive-in facilities, that we get all this data where the virus is still around. And if they don't do it, if they're kind of moving around, stop and go. I think this is the wrong strategy. And for preventing a second wave, I think that's why we need the data. Also, it has some impact on data protection, what kind of personal data we have to deliver by our cellular phones. But I think now we have the government is under pressure to deliver a strategy, and so far we haven't seen that yet.
Well, let's just talk about this, because you're obviously discussing here contact tracing apps, which will be launched in Switzerland on the 11th of May. Some would argue it's a small price to pay for reopening our economy.
Well, there are kind of two objectives: getting back freedom, economic freedom, also personal freedom, that by moving around, probably for a certain period, we have to deliver our individual data. And this is kind of a conflict of objective, a conflict of goals, but that must be discussed. And that's why the government has to propose a bill, and that's why the parliament, as soon as possible, has to decide on this bill. But so far, we haven't seen any bill how they want to do it in detail. We see some data protection specialists publish their opinions in newspapers, but so far the government hasn't decided in detail how they want to do it.
So what would you like to see from the government then on data protection and contact tracing?
That they say they want to do all over Switzerland contact tracing, that they build up together with private sector, with public-private partnerships on driving facilities, building up thousands of testing facilities, and by trace and testing, kind of to isolate the virus and get the data necessary to fight it and to prevent a second wave.
And it would be a voluntary app for people to download. It wouldn't be, required.
Well, I think the government should say what has the best impact to fight the virus, and if it has some impact on our personal freedom, data protection, they have to declare it and say this has the best impact to stabilize the health sector, the health of the whole population. And I think that Swiss people are most of them are willing also to deliver their personal data. But so far, it's only a discussion, and we don't see, as I said before, we don't see the strategy.
Turning to news outside of Switzerland now, with seasonal migrant workers stranded at home, furloughed British workers are now turning to farm work to put food on the table. CNN's Nick Robertson reports.
In the Garden of England, the county of Kent, a crisis looms. Lettuce harvest has begun, row upon row, ripe for picking. Any other year, this would look like locked-in profit, but not this. COVID-19 is killing markets and cutting off workers from farms. McDonald's, now shuttered, normally stuff their chicken wrap with this specially grown Apollo lettuce.
Potentially, there are 25 or 30 tonnes a week of crop there that currently we don't have a home for.
What does the rest of the season look like for you, do you reckon?
We break even this year, I snap your hand off.
Really? That bad?
That bad.
Bad is an understatement. Nick Otwell has managed these 1,750 acres, one of the largest lettuce producers near London, for over a decade. COVID-19 isn't just costing him sales, it's cut him off from his regular annual migrant workforce.
It's seasonal work, and British people haven't wanted to do seasonal work for whatever reason. And companies like ours have relied on migrant workers for decades now.
As the lockdown tightened, Otwell helped fly some of his regular skilled Romanian seasonal workers in early, but is still down 45 workers. The government says it is acutely aware that the fresh produce picking season is beginning now. They estimate that only 1/3 of the total migrant labour force is in the country and are hoping that furloughed workers will help out with the harvest. Otwell is sceptical, but giving it a shot, whittled 50 local email applicants to these 8 inductees for training. The farm needs them till fall. Sally Penfold, 45, lost her restaurant job, says she is good to stay.
for me, this is security, this is money coming in, and it's giving me something good and honourable to do. I'm going to be outside in the sunshine.
Daniel Martin, 32, furloughed civil engineer, training to be a forklift truck driver, maybe not.
I could go back at any point, really. I've sort of got feelers from my work that it's still going to be potentially a couple of months.
Industry experts, the Alliance of Ethical Labour Providers, say of 55,000 farm job applicants following the outbreak of COVID-19, only 150 got placement. Most couldn't commit the time. Otwell knows he's gambling, says each worker costs him $1,200 to train, money he can't spare.
I'm so nervous because I've been working in this industry my whole adult career, and all of my experience tells me that people are going to think that they can just turn up, treat it like a bit of a fun thing to try for a couple of weeks.
As we talk, some of his prayers answered. 3 Romanians arrive, recently COVID-19 unemployed, let go by a local restaurant.
That was quite fortuitous. So they were working at an Indian restaurant, and obviously the restaurants had to shut. The first question I asked those 3 was, are they going to commit for the summer? And they said yes. So I said, OK, let's go.
This, a summer like no other. Will there be tossed salads? Much now depends on the British worker. Nick Robertson, CNN, Kent, England.
And before we go, some German doctors are making quite the statement about the lack of protective equipment for healthcare workers treating COVID-19 patients. A website called Blanke Bedenken claims to show medical workers partially naked, only covered up by props like newspapers, stethoscopes, even toilet paper rolls. A statement on the website says, quote, "We need protective gear. When we run out of the little we have, we look like this," end quote. Personal protective equipment is in short supply across the globe due to the coronavirus pandemic. And Germany's Federal Ministry of Health says it received 10 million face masks from China this week, and another 50 million are expected soon. The owners of the website have not commented yet on their provocative statement. And that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, you can find all of our content on cnnmoney.ch, and you can stay in touch with us via all of our diverse social media platforms. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you right back here again tomorrow.